Okay, so I made a review of Stephen King's It. And if you watched my review, I let out, I left out, that controversial sewer scene after the kids defeat Pennywise for the first time. Because I thought it deserves, its own video. And you know the scene that I'm talking about, right? Okay, so of course, the reason why I want to talk about this subject is because, of course, that scene is controversial. People don't really want to talk about it, they skim over it. It's a bit discomforting, upsetting, of course. Even I, as an adult, reading this chapter, I was like, oh no, 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 no. Right? It was upsetting, because it's so bizarre and it just comes out of nowhere, right? So the kids, they have defeated Pennywise. Pennywise is wounded, and it leaves or hides somewhere. And the kids now, they're stuck in these sewers. It's pitch black, and Eddie doesn't know which way to go anymore for some reason, even though he knew exactly where they needed to go beforehand. So this isn't really explained, but my interpretation is that because they thought this monster, they were afraid, they were scared. Uh, After they defeated Pennywise, I think they were a bit, what's the word? Traumatized spiritually, if you want. So they're a bit lost in the darkness, and Beverly can sense it. And her bright idea is the only way for them to rejuvenate or rekindle their bond, their friendship, is to engage in skinship. Let's call it that. They're gonna engage in a little bit of hokey pokey, right? And yet again, this comes out of nowhere, just out of the blue, and it is bizarre. It doesn't make any sense, right? And this is just a little gripe of mine, but both times the kids and then the adults go into the sewers to confront Pennywise, they only take matches. And I'm like, why don't they take fucking flashlights? Right? It just don't make any sense, but whatever, right? So Beverly decides that the only way for them to escape the sewers is to you know, to engage in a little bit of hokey pokey, right? And some argue that this is, Stephen King's way of showing that these kids, are growing up, they're maturing, they went through this terrible ordeal, and now they are, you know, they're growing up basically, right? They're not kids anymore. That's what I think their argument is. But yet again, I have to say this. This is bizarre as well, because if you forgot, the kids are 11 years old, right? So it's gonna be a couple of years before they start to grow up. So, uh, right? And I'm gonna have to emphasize this. They're 11 years old, and they're living in a different time when there was, inhibitions, prohibitions, repressions when it comes to sex and so on. And these 11-year-olds, especially Beverly, I mean, she knows what to do all of a sudden, right? And then you can make the argument, well, they all have the Shining, etc., so they have that intuition, whatever, right? It just don't make no sense. And for the record, I don't know if you remember how you were at 11 years old, but I do remember, at 11 years old, I did not know that I had a ding dong, okay? You know, much less I didn't know how to use it, right? Just for the record, and because it's not realistic what's happening in this scene, right? So Beverly decides that she's gonna have a train run over her, right? And the boys align in a line, and she is, you know, she is wrestling with one of after the other. Eddie is first, and Big Bill is last. And listen, I felt bad for Bill because you never want to be last in anything, right? You don't even want sloppy seconds, okay? But this man got the short end of the stick, so to speak, right? And let's remind those who don't know this. I mean, it's not really an orgy or a gangbang per se, but this act happens in the dark, in the sewers, in raw sewage. And I felt bad for the boys because if you read the book, that chapter, each boy is like, I mean, hesitant. Each boy doesn't know what's happening. Some of them are crying. Some of them are like, yo, Bev, I don't know, you're acting weird, cuz, I mean, don't touch me, bro. Are you sure about this? Like, most of them don't want to engage, participate, partake in this thing, right? So it was, a tragedy comedy, so to speak, right? And imagine this. Picture this. While these kids are doing the hokey pokey, I just imagine that Pennywise is in some dark corner, wounded, shivering, and Pennywise is like actually seeing this shit as it happens, right? And even Pennywise should have been like, "Yo, bro, what the fuck's going on? These fucking kids are like fucking weird, bruh. They be wildin', bruh. Somebody called the FBI. Like, I'm gonna call Child Protective Services, right? I mean, so that's what I think really happened during that scene. Pennywise was in a dark corner and he was just fucking perplexed by this preposterous thing that was happening with these kids, right? So, no doubt about it, even Pennywise was shook by that scene. And I'm gonna end the video with this. I'm a writer myself, and when I read, these absurd chapters or scenes, I like to picture the editor or the editors that were in charge of this book. And I ask myself, what were they doing? What were they thinking? Right? Because it seems to me like they don't really fucking have a say in, you know, in this book. Like, if I were the editor of this book, I would have been like, yo, Steven, I mean, we're gonna publish this book. It's pretty good. No cap, bruh. We're gonna publish it, bruh. But there's a problem, bruh. I don't know what you were smoking or snorting when you wrote this chapter, but that scene right after the kids defeat Pennywise for the first time. I'm gonna need some explanations, right? You're gonna have to really just sit me down and just tell me why this needed to happen. Why did this needed to happen, Stephen? Why did this need to happen, Stephen? Why? It's weird, bruh. It's weird. That's all I have to say about it. It's weird. Okay? And that's about it. So, I'm a writer myself. I have a few books published on Amazon. If you want to support your boy, the link will be down below. Uh, you know, and thanks for watching. See ya.